Last night I went to the movies by myself to see The Little Things. I actually haven't been to a theater since June of 2019 when I was pregnant with my now 1.5-year-old daughter. We went to go see the remake of Child's Play in Pacific Place when we were still living in downtown Seattle. And this is my first time back. So theaters just reopened in my area at 40% capacity. This movie has been out since January, but well, yes, I went to go see it on March 1st. So I don't know how relevant this review video is, but I wanted to do it anyway because it was a movie that I wanted to see. When I went, like when you purchase the ticket, it automatically reserves the seats on either side of you. So like when I went, I think including me, there were 7 people in the theater watching this movie. It was actually kind of cool going to go see a movie on a weeknight. It was really quiet, and the theater was an AMC theater. It had reclining seats. It was very comfortable. But so The Little Things is a neo-noir crime thriller that starred Denzel Washington, who, I guess being a police detective in movies is like, he either really likes it or he gets typecast in it, but we all love him and his roles. He does a really good job with his performances. So I was excited to see him in his element, and Rami Malek, who I'm less familiar with, and Jared Leto, who I am a fan of. Those are kind of the big names in this movie. So it is about this veteran cop and how he used to work in LA, but now he works up north in the country, and this new detective that kind of takes his place, and these murders that are supposedly connected, and how this detective who walked away comes back to try and help solve them. And there's like a little bit of a twist at the end, or like the movie kind of ends up being something different from what you thought. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically go through the movie, give my thoughts, kind of my impression of it, talk about maybe some of the reviews that I've heard and whether or not I agree or disagree with them, and then let you know if I would recommend you seeing this movie. It opens up with this woman being pursued, and the woman, if you are a fan of the show Medium, she played Ariel, the oldest daughter from Medium. I kind of wondered what happened to her, but apparently she's still acting. So she's listening to her music, she's driving down this road in California in the 90s. This is set in the 90s. And this car is coming up really fast behind her, driving aggressively, getting on the side of her, stopping in front of her. So she panics and drives as fast as she can, and then she sees this like rest stop area, and she takes the chance to stop, run, and try and get help, but there's nobody there. So she's there in the desert. She runs off and kind of tries to hide, and this guy just seems like he's hunting. He's cool, calm, and collected, like he likes the chase. She's hiding, and she sees a semi coming, and she takes this chance to run out in the middle of the road and flag this guy down. She's able to be saved. Denzel Washington's character, crap, I've forgotten their names. Let me look them up really quick. Okay, I've looked it up. I'm going to refer to them as their last names. So Denzel Washington's character's last name is Deacon. Rami Malek's character's last name is Baxter. Have I already forgotten them? Jesus Christ, I have mom brain. Baxter, I think. And then Jared Leto's character's last name is Sparma. So So Deacon has to go down to LA to get this evidence in these murder cases that the LA Sheriff's Department is trying to solve. He runs into Baxter. And there's kind of like a territorial thing going on. But then when Baxter recognizes, or like when Baxter learns that this guy coming to get this evidence is the Deacon, apparently his reputation precedes him. And Baxter thinks that he kind of almost like thinks this guy's a legend and puts him up on a pedestal and thinks that he can learn something from Deacon. So he invites him along on this investigation. And we learn that Baxter has a family. He's got 2 little girls, and his wife kind of, I don't know if they have a strained relationship, but you can tell that's affected by the weight of Baxter's job on him. It seems they probably don't spend a lot of time together. And he's just really affected with the things that he encounters on a daily basis. He gets very affected when he can't solve something quickly enough and there are more victims. So the first case that Deacon and Baxter go on together is to this woman who's killed in her apartment, and they're looking for clues, and they find that, the person who killed her kind of staged her where she was. They talk about how he left and then came back. They had dinner together, and kind of against her will because she was a known vegetarian and he had her eat meat. Little details like that about the case, and Deacon is kind of having flashbacks to the cases that he was working on that are like this one. So he sticks around, and they're trying to gather some evidence to find who is doing these things. One of the breaks in the case comes when they find that in the victim's apartment there was a broken refrigerator, and the landlord was working with a company that was very close by. And so Deacon goes and gets a list of the people that work there, kind of hones in a couple guys, and really hones in on one. And Deacon and Baxter really get it in their heads that this is their guy. So they're really trying to surveil this person, Sparma, who is Jared Leto's character, and get all this evidence on him so that they can convict who they think is the killer. So Sparma is a really weird guy. He's very into true crime. And when they bring him in, he acts creepy and kind of acts like he wants them to think that he did it. Like he's trying to do this cat and mouse thing with the cops, which is probably not a good idea to do if you didn't do it. Because if you know anything about true crime, you know that people confess falsely sometimes. And one of the reasons why they might do that is like mental illness, or they're trying to do it for attention. They think they might gain some notoriety and they didn't do it at all, but they have nothing else going on in their lives. So these 2 cops get so desperate that they basically, after they've had him in for interrogation and Deacon kind of loses his cool and like physically goes after Sparma, they let him go because they don't have anything on him. And they decide, Deacon and Blake decide that they're going to get him away from his apartment so that Deacon can go in and find what he needs to find to be sure that he is the guy, that Sparma's the guy. So Blake calls Sparma from a payphone outside of his apartment. Now this is the 90s, remember, so payphones were more prevalent back then. And he calls him and says, hey, let me make this up to you, come to this restaurant. But he doesn't actually go to meet him. Like, he stays in the car to keep watch while Deacon goes inside. And then while Sparma's at the restaurant, he realizes that Blake isn't coming and knows what they're doing, knows what they're up to. So he asks to use the bartender's phone and calls in like an officer down tip and gets the police to come to storm his apartment to try and catch Deacon in the act. But Deacon is able to get out of a window and crawl up on the roof and shimmy down a pipe, and Blake is able to like see him and see what he's doing, and he goes around the back and picks him up. So they're both really frustrated and want to get their guy. Throughout the movie, you kind of see some flashbacks to some of the case, like the case that broke Deacon and what drove him away from Los Angeles. And he's not in good terms with a lot of the people at the LA Sheriff's Department. Are they sheriff or police? I don't know. At the LA Police Department. Let's call them the police department. But some people he is. And you don't get a lot about what happened to him until you get it all at the end. At the end, it's made clear, everything kind of comes out. But you get little bits along the way, and you pretty much all you have at this point is you just know that he's tortured, and it's really important to him to help solve this case. Because the case caused him to have a heart attack. He is divorced. He has two grown daughters. His wife's a nurse and lives in their house that they had together in LA. So Deacon and Blake continue to surveil Sparma. They follow him all around until they're just exhausted. So they're sitting outside of Sparma's apartment, and Deacon goes to this store right next to Sparma's apartment to get watch batteries and coffee for the two of them. So while he's gone, Blake is in the car and he hears the payphone next to their car ringing. And it continues to ring, so he gets out of his car and answers it, and it's Sparma. Sparma comes out of his apartment, kind of startling Blake, and offers to take him to where the bodies are. But he says his friend can't come. So they're speeding away in Sparma's car, and Deacon sees this and follows them. When he finally gets to them out in the desert, Sparma is dead. And Sparma has made Blake dig holes here and there, saying the bodies are here. Oh no, I forgot they're there. Says he didn't do it, but then starts antagonizing Blake about how he knows who his family is and his daughters and how he shouldn't put his face out there. And then that triggers Blake, and he takes the shovel and hits Sparma over the head, killing him. And he kind of freaks out and falls to his knees and can't believe what he's done and doesn't know what to do. And then Deacon shows up at this point and basically helps him cover up. And this is when you are let in on what happened with Deacon. So when he was investigating these murders, when he was still in the police force in Los Angeles, they're at the crime scene with two girls dead on a rock. He's walking through the woods and someone is coming towards him and he shoots. It's a third victim, but she's alive, and he shoots and kills her. So he and a few of the people, including the coroner or the medical examiner who he's friends with, cover it up, basically, because like he didn't mean to kill her. It was an accident, but like it would ruin his career, and so they cover it up as if he's above the law, as if that killing is okay because he didn't mean to, but the people that they're trying to catch, the people that they're investigating, you know, those people can be arrested, but not a cop. So there's cover-ups, there's, you know, they're breaking into people's homes to get like evidence illegally that wouldn't even be able to be entered into evidence unless it was seized legally. And so Blake is really shaken up about what he's done, but Deacon convinces him to cover it up, basically. So Deacon goes back to Sparma's apartment and basically cleans it out and gets rid of everything. And throughout the whole movie, you know, there's this connecting line of the little things. You know, Deacon will say it's the little things that get you caught. So he tries to just clean up the whole mess. And Blake is kind of tortured because he's like, this was the guy, right? You know, he was the killer. I didn't just kill an innocent man who was probably mentally ill and just sick and wanted attention and just wanted to be close to what was going on. And one of the missing women had a red beret that, you know, would have been some kind of a clue. And so what Deacon does is he sends a note to Blake at his home with a red beret with a note that says no angels, because he says that, you know, they're the angels of the victims working for them while, you know, they're gone. And so then you think, okay, well, for me, I thought, did he really find this beret when he was cleaning out Sparma's apartment? Or is he just trying to take mercy on this guy so that he doesn't torture himself the rest of his life the way that Deacon had? And so you wonder, and then as the movie goes on, Deacon takes everything back from Sparma's apartment to his home back in Northern California and burns it all in a burn barrel. And you see this newly purchased package of barrettes with the red beret missing. And so now you know this wasn't found in Sparma's apartment. Deacon did this to try and help lessen the guilt that Baxter has for killing Sparma. So I guess you're kind of meant to think that Sparma was innocent and just a sick guy that was messing with the police and just wanted to be close to what was going on and didn't actually do any of this. But in his apartment, he did have a floorboard with all of his newspaper cutouts of the case that Deacon was working on and the cases that Baxter had been working on. So I feel like you still kind of don't know. I mean, why would he be hiding those in a floorboard if he didn't do it? But if he was like mentally ill, maybe it doesn't mean anything. But the movie you think is going to be about one thing, and then it turns out to be about basically just police corruption. So, you know, the movie kept my attention the whole time. And I definitely got nostalgic vibes about it. And I didn't read anything about the movie beyond like just the surface level premise, like just who was in it. I would say Jared Leto was the main draw, just because I feel like he always plays weird characters. So, and that was the main draw, but I just, you know, I like really creepy movies in this type of genre. And as I was watching it, I mean, from the beginning, you're told, you know, by the subtitle or by the subtitle that the movie takes place in the 90s. And I got 90s vibes from it because, you know, Denzel Washington has been in a lot of cop movies. He's played cops. You know, it kind of reminded me a little bit maybe of like Prophecy. I grew up on this kind of thing, so I definitely had some nostalgia. And I'm a nostalgia junkie, so I love all of that. And not knowing anything else about it, when I came back from the movies last night, I was reading some of the reviews. The reviews are kind of mixed. You know, people are saying that there's nothing new about it. It is kind of a ripoff of the 90s movie. It doesn't add anything new to the genre. Maybe is a little bit out of place, which I can kind of understand. But then there was a review that kind of echoed what I just said, that it was almost exact, because it even references, like, if you're going to a movie theater on a weekday night and watching this, and it, gives you some nostalgia of like 90s crime thrillers, then you might leave feeling satisfied. And I feel like that really sums up my experience. I would say, I like it for that reason. And then when I read a little bit further about it and realized that it was written in the 90s, and it had Spielberg initially attached to it to direct, and Clint Eastwood was attached to it at one point, and it was just shelved for a really long time, and then they finally made it. Some other reviews were kind of talking about how, with like everything going on with police these days, and like it basically talks about police corruption, it might not have been the greatest movie to put out like in the current climate. But overall, I love Denzel Washington. I like, the cop movies that he does. I like Jared Leto. I thought it was well done. I mean, it harkens back to those crime movies of the 90s, and honestly, I liked it. So, I don't really have anything bad to say about it. I would recommend you watch it if you're anything like me and you like anything that I said. So, I think that pretty much sums it up. If you watch the movie, let me know what you think, if you would agree with what I said, or if you have a different view of it. Leave a like if you liked this video. Subscribe for more videos, turn on notifications so that you know when I upload, and I will see you in my next video.